This week on the audio podcast, episode 68, Score Season Ends, we have an interview with MuscScore. We talk about Genelec speakers, Zen, and the art of production, and we facilitate your stalking of us throughout the break. It's the end of the season, but there's one more episode to go, so don't cry just yet. This is the 13th of August, 2012. This is the audio podcast, show number 68, Score Season End. I'm Scott Hewitt. Scott McLaughlin is kind of here, but he's the kind of empty space because he vanished. Also joining us is our semi-pro guest presenter.
Yes, that's me, I'm supposing, Adam Janch. And this week we have a range of our standard news articles, a few other articles, a bit of plunder, but to start everything off, we have an interview with the two chaps behind MuscScore. That is Thomas Bonti and Nicolas Froment. I'm not sure if it's Nicolas or Nicolas.
Both are okay. Nicolas, as you wish. Nicolas.
Okay, no problem. So we're going to have an interview which basically follows on because last week we had Derek Williams, was it, Scott?
Yeah, that's right. Derek Williams of SibeliusUsers.org.
Yes, and basically that was all about the Save Sibelius campaign. MuscScore is actually an open source competitor. Well, I'm not sure if competitor is the right word, but basically a kind of Sibelius-like program, but that's been made through the kind of open source community. So it's a really nice link to last week's show. If you'd like to see or listen to last week's show, you can head to theaudiopodcast.co.uk. We've got all the shows listed there. So I'm going to pass over to Scott Hewitt and get ourselves started.
Okay then, so Thomas, Nicholas, it's a great pleasure to have you on today. Could you tell us a little bit about the MuscScore project then? So what's it all about?
So MuscScore is basically software to make sheet music, so-called music notation software. And as Adam said, it's open source, it's free. People can download it from MuscScore.org, and it's available for Windows, Mac, Linux, almost all the Linux distributions that I know of at least. And so far we had almost 3.5 million downloads. So it's fair to say it's quite a successful project right now. And we add another 100,000 downloads per month, so things are going pretty well for us.
So for our listeners who aren't sure what open source means and what an open source project is, could you just say a little bit about the reasons, well, first of all, what it is, but also the reasons why you've chosen to be an open source project?
Yeah, so MuscScore is open source. The source code is written in C++, and it's open source under the license GPL version 2. Now, the reason why it's GPL version 2 goes back to our lead developer, Werner Schweer, who started MuscScore in 2002. And he decided to release his source code under GPL 2 because he figured that's the only fast or good way to make my project available to the world, so people can check it out, so people can help me making it better, improving it. And actually that worked out quite well because after a couple of years we jumped on board, meaning myself and Nicola. And then the whole group of contributors started to grow, and today we have more than 300 contributors. So people making code, people making translations, documentation, graphics, and so forth. So it's become a huge success for such a small or niche software product, and that's basically because it's open source, so anyone can just delve into the code and help. I guess I've said it all, Nicola, or is something more to be said?
No, it's the story.
Okay.
Awesome. So how come you decided to get involved in this project? What was it about MuscScore that interested you both?
I guess I'll let this one over to Nicola.
Yeah, well, it's a long story, but to make it short, we are both musicians. I'm a drummer, and Thomas is a pianist, and so we were looking for something to create sheet music, and we were both programmers. And so, yeah, that was a part of the story. The other part of the story is we had an idea a long time ago. We saw the founder of Wikipedia in a conference, and we envisioned a website to make a wiki for sheet music. And one thing that was missing to do that is an editor for sheet music. And so something that is accessible, something with a very low cost. Open source would be even better, and so we look for something, and yeah, it was MuscScore. So that's how we jump into it, and then ported it to Windows and Mac and so on.
You say you have around 300 contributors, or over 300 contributors. What kind of things do both of you do? What are your most general things that you look at in the cycle?
So I'm in charge of the websites MuscScore.org and MuscScore.com, and that's been an ongoing effort since 2008. So we launched MuscScore.org in the summer of 2008, and that's basically where the whole contributor community is residing. So it grew from there. That's mainly my thing. Also, the MuscScore translation stuff. So setting up a translation server, making sure people can help with the translations and so forth.
I do a little bit of everything. I'm more responsible of the Windows and Mac versions. I do a lot of bug fixing and support on the forum in English, but in French as well, because you may have heard. But my first language is is French, and Spanish a bit also. So yeah, I do a bit of everything, and I help. I try to unload our lead programmer Werner. Because he is very busy into the code and only the code, so I try to hide him and unload his workload.
It's very necessary, I think, that kind of taking the load off the main guy, isn't it?
That's something that I thought was really interesting. I've used MuscScore for about a year or so, and I use Sibelius as well, and Finale sometimes if needed. But going into the MuscScore forums, it's really great to see how open the whole conversation is about the code and about what's happening and about development and about the future things. Could you talk a little bit about the forums or a little bit about future development? Or what ideas come into you from the users, I guess is the question I'm asking.
Sure. So the way MuscScore has been developed from the start was mainly just Werner, who had an idea and who wanted to develop it for himself. Now, since we launched the forums, obviously we got a lot of requests. The main request for ourselves back in the days was make MuscScore a bit better for lead sheets. So when we jumped on board, there wasn't a way to add chord notations or it's chord names. And so that was how it started for me, at least. And then people start explaining what they want to do, and from there it grew. That's what I could say about how it works.
The forum have two facets, I think. One is only musicians that go to the forum and they are looking for help and just a way to use the software more efficiently or to make something specific with the software. And then there are some people who are more tech savvy and more into computers, and then they want to know how it works and they want to add something to it. And we also have a plugin framework, so even with just a little of programming knowledge, you can add your stuff to MuscScore. And if you have an harmonica player or something very specific and you want to add tablature for your instrument, or you want to color the notes in a specific way, you can make a very small program to make it happen. So we try to open it even to not computer wizards.
Yeah. And given that you've only got a certain amount of developer time and coding time, how do you decide what features get put in? Like, for example, I've seen that there's talk about putting in better guitar tab notation, so something that's more intuitive for guitar tab users. How, out of all the competing possible musical notations, how do you decide what goes in?
It wasn't really a decision process in this case. Basically, Werner, the lead developer, he's a piano player, so he has no knowledge whatsoever about tablature. Neither did I, and I guess Nicola did have some knowledge about it. But in the end, none of the three of us knew how it should be implemented, and it was just waiting for the right guy. And that right guy was Miware from Italy. And yeah, he made it happen. So for Musical to the Do, it will be there. And we still need some people testing it. So there are the nightly downloads. So people are welcome to download these and then report bugs back because I think we still need some stress testing on tablatures. Yeah.
And that's the great thing about the open source aspect of the program, is that you don't have to go and find someone and hire them if you need to fit something in that isn't your core competency as far as music is concerned. Mm-hmm. You can just put a plea out, say, okay, we're MuscScore, and we really want to. It'll be amazing to have guitar tab. Can anyone do this? And someone will come along and say, yeah, I'll do that. That's my thing. And that must be one of the huge benefits of working in the open source domain.
Yeah, of course, it does help if we promote it a bit, meaning we knew that a lot of people were asking for tablature. So anytime we went to open source conferences like FOSDEM in Brussels, we talked to a bunch of people and we said, if someone knows about tablature, please join and help us. Now, eventually, the Italian developer, he just showed up. I don't think he started doing it because we asked. He mainly wanted to do it himself, and that's the right thing to do. I mean, it's open source. It's scratching your own itch. So yeah, that's how it went.
Cool. One of the other key features of the open source element of the project as well, especially in relation to our interview we did last week, is obviously as a open source program, development is in the open, but also it could be forked as people want it to be, and there's a real assurance that as if the individual's willing to invest in it, then you can you'll be able to open a MuscScore file for a long time into the future. You'll be just able to open them and access them as you want to, and keep that stuff up to date as well, which is a really exciting kind of feature. Could you say a little bit about the file format that MuscScore uses?
So the file format of MuscScore is XML. It's a zipped XML, in fact, so you can read it and you can make a software to read it. With that being said, we do not advise to do it. MuscScore it's a software to read and write this type of files, and we try to push people to use music XML. And music XML is a standard between all the score writers, but the format is open, so you can see it, the MuscScore format. The interchange between other score writers like Sibelius and Finale and MuscScore is made with music XML, and this one is standardized with the documentation and so on. That's less true for the MuscScore format.
Cool. Awesome stuff. So I don't know. The final thing I'd like to ask a little bit about is the MuscScore.com community site, where you talk about for sharing music and the kind of mobile applications that are also in development. Could you say a little bit about that kind of part of the project?
Sure. So we started MuscScore.com, at least the development of it, somewhere at the end of 2010, and really launched it last year, 2011. And there were a couple of reasons why we made it. So first of all, because we figured if people make sheet music with the MuscScore, they want to share it and they want to show it to the world. And second, I'm a big user of Flickr, so the photo sharing site, and I liked having the idea of having a Flickr, but then for sheet music. it all came nicely together. Why? Because as MusScore was growing, we also saw a need for ourselves to make some kind of a sustainable business model behind MusScore. And thinking about Flickr and the fact that it's a freemium-based website, so where people can buy a pro account and then have unlimited storage, we thought, let's do the same thing then for sheet music. Let's start MusicScore.com and give people a place where they can upload their scores. Obviously, as uploading scores takes some storage space and it takes some processing time of servers, we have a cost, and therefore we are asking $49 per year so they can buy a pro account. And right now we are focused on making apps, mobile apps for iOS and Android. And that takes quite some time because we had to refactor MusScore code in order to make this happen. But normally, if all goes well, by the end of the year, we'll have those apps ready. And then anything that is being posted on the sheet music sharing site, music.com, will be just one click to download it into your mobile device, either a tablet, either a smartphone, and you can listen to it, you can transpose it, you can make it bigger, smaller, and so forth. So it will be just a great way to have your whole sheet music collection with you anywhere, anytime, and that's what we envisioned with music.com.
Awesome stuff. That sounds really cool.
Yeah,
really exciting.
Yeah.
So maybe that's also an answer to the things we often hear. So with the Sibelius story, like it's open source, so how are they going to make money, or so who is behind it? How will open source make sure that it will continue and improve and so on? Well, basically we've now this small company with myself, with Nicola, and with Werner, our lead developer, and with music.com we can get revenue and then dedicate full time on MusScore development, and we do this already now for the past some years now actually, and so that's how we can make sure that MusScore can further grow. So there is no special magic behind this. It's just if some people can dedicate full time on an open source project that they like, well, things can go fast, and people will see it as they will be able to download MusScore 2.0 in the future. They will see it's a tremendous improvement over MusScore 1.0, and it will compete with the commercial competitors. And yeah, meaning there won't be any reason anymore, I guess, to really use one of the commercial competitors if MusScore 2.0 is out there, except for the high end of the industry, the publishers and so forth. If it's just about amateurs, semi-professionals, they will be happy with MusScore.
I'd like to throw in one hypothetical question for you. Last week, when we were talking to Derek Williams, I think the idea of one of the problems that they were having with Sibelius and Avid was that Avid seemed to be refusing to sell Sibelius on. But then there's the question of, could Sibelius become an open source program? If Sibelius did become open source, then where would that kind of lie with you guys and MusScore? Would you work across platforms, do you think, across the two programs, or would you dedicate completely to MusScore, or would you maybe try to merge the two together?
So I can answer a bit. I think Sibelius is several millions of line of code. I don't know. I never saw the code, of course, but it's probably a bunch of code. And MusScore is like 500 or 700,000 line of code. So it's two huge projects. Merging them will be, I think, extremely hard. That's for one. And your first hypothesis, or your first if, I think it's a big one, meaning open sourcing a proprietary software. It's very hard because there are dependencies. You may depend on other people software, other company software that you pay for, and you got a license for it and so on. So yeah, I don't think they will make it to open source it. I don't think they want it, but even if they wanted it, I'm not sure they can do it.
I think it's an interesting idea that Sibelius might open source, but I have to agree with you. It doesn't seem like the two things could be merged. Jumping back a little bit to what Thomas was saying a second ago, that it's always seemed to me that because I started off as a Finale user and then I moved on to Sibelius simply because Sibelius was faster. You could learn it faster, you could pick it up quicker. Sibelius did one very clever thing, that they captured the school market very quickly. So suddenly, soon after Sibelius came out, every school in the country was using Sibelius. They managed to capture that. And it seems like something that MuscScore could easily do, because schools are always strapped for money. So the idea of having an easy and relatively cheap way to do things, it seems like something that maybe it would be worth exploring for MuscScore to make it easy for schools to adopt their program.
Well, it's happening already.
Oh, great!
So we know there are quite some cuts in the budgets everywhere actually. So also particularly in the US. And so what happens right now is that MuscScore is being shipped. Pre-installed on an image that is then used to ship directly to 10,000s of computers in one district, and we saw that this happening in Australia. This happened in a few states in the US. This happened closer to you in Scotland, in Edinburgh. This happened in Switzerland. And I'm sure I forget a lot right now, but and these are installs that we don't know of, in the sense that the only thing we know are downloads, but we don't know how many basically installs are happening right now worldwide. But we think it's a lot, especially since we got quite some people talking about it to us and explaining how they like MuscScore and the fact it's free, and often we get those questions like, who do we need to ask permission for to distribute MuscScore? Well, no one. I mean, the GPL license is there. It says it all. Still, people are asking because they don't know about the GPL license, but it's happening fast. And again, I don't know what it means for Finale or Sibelius. But it's going fast, and it's only going faster, and of course a free price tag is an unbeatable price. So yeah, I mean, that's all I can say.
That's really good news to hear. That's really kind of inspiring for the future. I hope that continues to go well with 2.0.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome stuff. Well, I'd like to thank you both for coming on and talking to us about MuscScore. You can find out more about MuscScore at muscscore.org and muscscore.com for the kind of mobile and kind of score sharing stuff. Obviously, it's open source software, so I know that it's available inside Yum, and it was also available through Pacman as well for people on Fedora and Arch. But I know Ubuntu has it as well, and there's a Debian release. So if you're on a Linux platform, you can probably install it while you listen to the end of the show, which is nice, as they say. One of the great features of open source. It's an app store, which is good, as opposed to the bad app stores.
And if you need help, we have the IRC channel, so MuscScore, and you will find Nicolas in there under the name Laconique, and he's the guy to ask if you have building problems.
And it's on GitHub as well. So
Awesome
go to GitHub and fork it.
Well, big super fork, that'd be nice. That's awesome stuff. Obviously, you can get all those show notes and all those details from the audiopodcast.co.uk, and this is show 68, so it's nice and quick and easy to find that. Thank you very much, guys. Is there perhaps you just want to say a final word if people are interested in your own projects or about yourselves? If you want to just a link for yourselves, that'd be cool.
Just let us know on muscscore.org. Sign up for the forum and let us know what you think about MuscScore, what you would like to see in MuscScore 2.0, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome stuff. Cool. Well, we're going to transition into the normal part of the show, into the news. So you're more than welcome to hang around and join in if you want to. It becomes a bit of a free for all. So feel free to if you want to.
Okay.
For anybody watching or listening, as always, the show notes are at theaudiopodcast.co.uk/show/68. I'm going to head into the news. Adam, we're going into the news. Scott, we're going into the news. And it's the final news of this season. Oh,
no. It's fine, though. We'll be back for a new season, and there'll be new news.
That's very true. So I don't know about other people, but when I get when I'm working in my studio, I just have my monitors strewn around the room in places where they're convenient. So I have one on a window sill, another on top of a printer. But Genelec think it's important that we position our monitors correctly and have released an iOS app to facilitate this. Speaker Angle, I believe its name is. Yeah.
Speaker Angle, and it works for both stereo and surround systems. So, if you've got your spangly new Genelec 5.1 system out there, you're covered. No problem.
When you say spangly, if you added glitter to yours, is it a little sparkles?
I what I did was, the jackets the cowboys wear that have those little things that dangle down on the front there. Yeah. I've done that with a staple gun on the bottom. So, and then you can just kind of run your fingers underneath it to dry them if you've got wet hands.
That's very nice. It is actually, from what I could tell, obviously I don't have Genelec speakers, I don't have an iPhone, so I was cut off from really exploring the story in those two ways. But from what I can tell, you actually put your phone on top of the speaker, and then you orientate the speaker with the phone sitting on top of it, and that's actually what gives you the feedback as to it's in the correct position for where it needs to be.
Interesting.
Sounds interesting, because you'd have to put it in the right the right place on top of the speaker, but how does it tell? How does it know, or what angle the speaker's at if you do that? Maybe the compass. Oh, that's interesting.
Genelec speakers are not the most flat. I don't mean in terms of their spectrum. I mean, it's literally on top. They're not so flat, but I guess they figured out a way to work that.
They like their curviness on the newer models, but the old ones are very square. It'll work quite well for those. Do you know if this works for other speakers as well, or is it tuned particularly for Genelec monitors?
I suspect that it's been tuned for Genelec speakers, but one would suggest that a box with a speaker in it is a box with a speaker in it.
Well, I imagine that the developer, whose name is Howard Massey, is probably playing a cool little game here. He's probably thinking, right, we'll get Genelec on board. Now we'll get Adam on board, not me, the speaker company, Event. We'll get all these different companies on board, and we'll make a separate app for each one, and that will be a much better business model for us than making one app that works with all of them. But that's completely guessing. Anyway, so Speaker Angle is available from the iOS store. It'll work on your iPad, iPhone, and iPod Touch, and it's geared towards Genelec speakers at the moment.
Yay.
Awesome
stuff. Books. Did you know that people still write books? They do.
Really?
Hal Leonard have released the follow-up to Zen and the Art of Mixing with Zen and the Art of Producing. Written by Mixerman and available now.
Great. These aren't linked at all, apart from through the title. They're not linked to the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, are they?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
I read a bit of that and then I got sidetracked, but it was quite good up to the point. Not this book, the motorcycle maintenance one.
As always, I kind of went looking in the blurb. Just pulling a bit of the blurb out that I quoted. The roles of an effective producer as budget manager, time manager, personnel manager, product manager, arranger, visionary, and leader, without ever foregoing the politics involved in the process.
Wow, that's wide-ranging, and now hopefully as wide-ranging will be the app that Behringer have released for the new X32 mixing desk. And I have finally read the Sound on Sound review of the mixing desk, and it looks pretty good. I'd be interested to try one out. But you can now get I'm guessing that's pronounced Z control, but it's spelled XI control. And that will connect up to your Behringer X32 and allow you to change mix and monitor levels on the wireless network. And you can daisy chain iPads, so you can have multiple. That's pretty cool.
Up to 10 iPads at a time can be used to control it, yeah. And the
Wow.
monitoring is real time. It will actually give you It will actually give you an illustration of real time monitoring levels on any of the kind of channels or buses or outputs on the desk. So
Handy. So basically, the idea would be that you give one of these to like each member of the band or something, and they could actually and they could actually maybe change their own monitor mix or that kind of thing.
and I know that you could potentially do that, but I had a very quick look around at the system, and it seemed that while that is definitely something you could do eventually, at the moment it looks like all of the iPads have the same amount of control over everything. So you'd probably have to be a bit cautious of doing that, because potentially your bass player could decide he wants more bass and inadvertently turn up the front of house or play with the home mix. But certainly as a usage case, I think you've nailed it. That would be a really great usage case for that kind of thing, and it'd be a nice kind of powerful system to be used for that sort of stuff there as well.
Well, if anyone from Behringer's listening, credit goes to us here at the Audio Podcast. And we've got quite a few app-related news stories, and the next one is a multi-track app for iPad. Now, this one looks like it's like the dogs, and I won't say the next word. It looks like it's very fully featured. It's got lots of tracks of playback, lots of
48 tracks.
Indeed, lots of tracks of recording. If you
24
use
tracks.
A compatible audio interface via the camera connector upgrade. It has plug-in support for VST, but only iOS ones. And then you can jump your projects between other DAWs using AAF format. And it has editing and mixing involved too. So, I mean, that's fascinating, because that seems like a huge amount of functionality for an iPad app.
Yeah, is anybody really buying this iPad app to do this though? Has anybody actually done it yet? People keep releasing apps to do this, but I don't look at my Generation 1 iPad has actually been a little bit flaky in the last couple of weeks. It's just started to kind of go a bit sluggish and seize up every now and again, and I don't know why that is, but are people really kind of risking kind of a gig recording on this on their iPad? Is that...
Well, I don't know if that's what it's for, and I don't think that a pro would trust this as a multi-track recorder for a live gig scenario. But I suppose it's a development, isn't it? Because there are other ones that do like 8 tracks of recording, but they're limited in other ways. One of the biggest limitations that I see on this format is the plugins. You can download free VST and AU plugins for your Mac or PC-based DAW, but there's always been a limitation here on in the iOS sphere. So it looks like there's some way around that now with this iOS format version. Though the limitations of the store mean that you'll have to buy all new plugins again, even if you own them already for the Mac, because there's no way around it. But anyway, I mean, that looks interesting. And, the first thing I thought was, there's no way that works. There's no way that you could properly mix something on there. It'll be too difficult. It'll frustrate the hell out of anybody. But I'm actually willing to give it a try. So I might download that and have a little bit of a play. And if I do, we can do a little report on it on a future version of the Audio Podcast.
I'd be very interested to see how the hardware handles up. I mean, I have trouble playing 24 tracks back on my MacBook Pro. I'd be very interested to see how the processor on the iPad handles it.
Oh yeah, that was one thing I was thinking was there's no way you couldn't do a proper full mix on that. Not enough processing power, but maybe there's a way of bouncing down so you can print your effects, or
They could have some sort of fancy track freezing thing, or some sort of clever buffering system. Who knows? But it does seem those numbers, 48 tracks and 24 tracks, they seem pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
Of course, if you had an external sound card running into it, would that take the load? Would that take some of the pressure off?
No.
No.
One thing that would help the iPad is the same thing that would help I can't remember what it's called. An SSD. Based storage system is that there's not a hard drive limiting the amount of audio that's being flown off the device into processing. So there's not a bottleneck there, but you still need processing power to do everything. So track count, actually, yeah, maybe track count's all right, but it'll be processing that will be the limitation.
Yep.
I would also suggest that the USB interface will maybe fall behind if you try and do, 24 tracks all at once as well, because you're getting pretty close to the top of, well, I think you'd probably be beyond USB 2 at that point there, really. So,
but most people, 8 is probably a decent number of tracks to expect people to want to record at once. So, anyway, I think it'll be worth a look. And as I say, I might download that, might give that a try.
Yeah. In our review of it as well, in our feature listing as we just did there, we forgot to mention that key DAW function that everybody looks for as well, Dropbox support.
Dropbox. Oh, no, SoundCloud support as well.
Yeah.
I think Dropbox and SoundCloud.
Programmable pan laws. Nice. There's a great typo in there as well. I've typoed it and put a fro, which I was quite happy about. I'm going to leave that one there. Multi-track recorder fro. It's just like a big haircut for it. It's
I think I saw that. Yeah, I saw that when I read it the first time. Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on. So, as we know, technology can be used for good and for evil. And the internet, the Internet Archive has stepped up here with a very deliberate play, which I commend, and that is to draw everybody's attention to the fact that the Internet Archive actually seeds torrents of legally available media that they host on the Internet Archive, and they're pushing on to the torrents. So they have literally tens of thousands of them and adding more and more all the time. Concerts by Maroon 5, Jack Johnson, Tenacious D. There's loads of stuff there. But the extension to this story that I think is the most interesting thing is that the reason they've done it is, first of all, it's actually faster. It's quicker to BitTorrent this. It's quicker to torrent this than it is to do a straight download from their servers. But a second thing is they're actually also proactively exploring how to use the torrent locations to actually provide the archive as a way of getting over the massive amount of storage space that they're constantly needing and requiring. So I thought this was really exciting to see, to kind of put a line in the sand and to say, this technology has we all knew it had a good and positive use as well, and here's a very kind of strong organization making a statement of intent here, which I thought was commendable. So hence I wanted to put it in there.
And the Internet Archive are the guys who do the Wayback Machine, aren't they?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, awesome.
So,
okay, and that finishes the news. Slightly less news today because we've had the interview earlier. But interestingly, this week we do have some other news. Other news being kind of administrative. I mean, that's what I see it. Scott doesn't like that term. But the audio podcast administrative type things. But it probably isn't actually, looking at them. So, Scott, would you like to start us on the other?
Yeah, why not? Well, the first one, it concerns me, but I'm going to be at OggCamp in Liverpool this coming weekend. So I just thought that I would, just say I'm going to be there. And if you're going to be there as well, then it'd be great to please come say hi and say that you listen to the show.
Don't forget to bring your autograph books, because Scott Hewitt will be there and he might even have a pen.
Can we get an autograph iPad app?
I won't have a pen. I'll have a netbook, I guess. If you want, I could,
Are you going to have a stylus? It just has to be compatible with the other person.
We could touch netbooks or something like that, I guess. Unlikely to have a pen, but we could touch. But I just thought, if somebody's listening and they're going to be there and you want to say hi, that's absolutely awesome. I'm very happy for that to happen. Please don't feel that, I'm very, very happy about that. You shouldn't feel like you'll be disturbing me, because you won't be at all. So that's cool. OggCamp is is an unconference of kind of Creative Commons, open culture, open source, all that kind of cool and good stuff. It's hosted by the Ubuntu UK podcast and Linux Outlaws and with Six Gun Productions. So, hey, there's two really cool podcasts that you can also enjoy while we're not there. Only Linux Outlaws is recorded on Mondays generally right now at the same time, so it's not ideal.
Listen to the audio podcast.
That's awesome stuff. Okay, Scott, I think you're going to be at this, maybe, if my notes serve me correctly as well.
At OggCamp?
No, you're not going to be at OggCamp.
The next one.
The next
one. And the audio podcast falls silent.
This is not on my webpage.
Reload it. It's online.
Reload the page. It's online. So it's another appearance that.
Oh.
Are you there?
No, I'm not at that.
You're not there? Oh, my apologies. Well,
It's funny because last year all three of us were there in some capacity or another.
That's very true. But in terms of unofficial audio podcast international appearances, myself and Alex Harker are going to be at the International Computer Music Conference in Slovenia in September as well. So
Woo.
I wish I could be there. It's very beautiful.
if you want to come say so, please come say hi to me there as well. That'd be fine. I'd enjoy that. That's
And
kind of cool.
don't forget autograph books. Alex Harker's going to be there too. You could get Alex Harker's autograph. Just think how much that'll be worth in 10 years. It'll be amazing. Okay, and the last bit of administrative news is that, of course, we're coming to the end of this season of the audio podcast. So there's going to be a little gap through the rest of August. And are we back on the 10th of September?
Yeah. So we're back on the 10th of September. Samuel Freeman, who's been away for a couple of weeks, his kind of schedule changed a little bit, and he ended up doing something else on Monday evenings. Is going to be back on the 10th. That's because I'll be at ICMC. So my intention is to record the show from there. But in case I'm not there, he's definitely going to be here to do that. So he will be. Yeah. So we'll be back on the 10th. All things hopefully working out like that. So yeah, that'd be cool. If you want to suggest things that we should do or people that we should, interview or anything like that, that'd be, you should send us an email. Sam wanted me to say thanks to, all of our various guests and presenters and guest presenters that we've had over this past season as well.
Semi-professional guest presenters.
Yeah. And we mentioned that all the shows are, Adam already mentioned that all the shows are online all the way from episode 1 as audio. So you can go back and have a listen to them, and it's pretty entertaining, to be honest. It's
entertaining because the earlier ones are not of the same quality as the later ones. But you can basically see the trajectory of the audio podcast from a small seed sown into the internet, into the it's not an oak tree yet. We're not that far up, but it's solid. It's a good old tree, and it's growing, and it's going well. It's going well. So come back for season 5 of the audio podcast on the 10th of September.
Yeah, and I've managed to get my list of guests up. I was trying to frantically do that when you asked me a question. I was like, oh, pants. So I'm going to go through them. This season we had Spencer Salzar talking to us about Chuck and the Chuck-ins that were being built. That's awesome. They're in no particular order. It's a bit of a mess. I'm sorry about this. We had the VMer interview with Peter Forrest. That was a lot of fun back in March. Dan Stowell about the Super Collider Symposium that happened earlier on this year. We had Frank Bry of the Recordist.com as well, where we talked about microphones falling into water. I thought that was kind of fun. We had David Zuccarelli, David Butler, and Franz Rosati as part of the Max for You kind of series of interviews and live show that we did. Obviously, we had my notes are going crazy. Today's MuscScore one, which was awesome as well. That was cool. Adam Yanch with the Futures EP. We got him before Laverne on BBC Radio 6. We were happy about that. Derek Williams of Sibelius Users. We had Jean-Baptiste of Music Hackspace, Jean-Baptiste Football, the Music Hackspace in there. Jesse Allison of ElectroTap. And that was it. Wow, that was a lot of interviews.
Yeah, sorted. Let's hope we have as many ones next time and of the same quality, because a lot of those have been very interesting.
Yeah, it's been
very interesting indeed. Now, I'd like to just halt proceedings for a moment to prepare for our last section of today's audio podcast. It is plunder.
Arg. Nice.
There we go. All right, that's us done then, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's yeah. So plunder items. First of all, a bit of an in-house plug, but Creative Pack 2012 starts on the 1st of September. We talked about it last year. It's happening this year. I think we've all been part of it before. It's a great way to, basically you commit to doing something creative every day of September. It's a great way to learn a new programming language, to learn a new DAW, to learn a new instrument, to finish a composition, to write a composition, to write a story, or to do anything you want whatsoever. And anything goes. It's just a great excuse to prompt you to complete and do something. So
And the key part of it is that you have to document it as you go. So during September, you have some internet documentation hosted wherever, your favorite blogging platform or your website or whatever, and you just make sure to keep on documenting it so everyone knows. Your documentation, the links to everyone's documentation are actually at the Creative Pact website, which is creativepact.co.uk. So you can see everyone is taking part, and you can check out how they're getting on. And that starts on the 1st of September. Scott, how does someone get in touch if they're interested?
Go have a look at creativepact.co.uk and just send an email or a tweet.
And what are you doing this year?
I haven't committed yet, actually. My intention was to podcast every day like I did in September last year. It was a lot of fun. I did loads and loads of really cool and exciting interviews. But I'm moving house the very last week of August, and I'm away in Slovenia for a week in September. So I'm trying to work out how the practicalities of podcasting every day would work. And the answer is that I'd probably have to pre-record shows instead. And I'm
That's not really the kind of point. It's not really in the spirit of it if you do it all ahead of time and then like do it all in the second half of August and then just do the documentation in September. But yeah, no. Again, the whole point of Creative Pact is you've got to try and work it around your life. It shouldn't take everything of your life away, but there's the challenge is to actually integrate it into your life and show you that actually you can integrate a creative project or another creative project into your already hectic schedule. I've been half and half between things. I was thinking I wanted to do something with Max MSP. I might still do something with Max MSP. I might go and buy a £50 S1 S1100 sampler in a shop just around the corner from me and do something with that. Kind of thinking a bit of MIDI, that'd be kind of cool. But basically I'm thinking I want to create some kind of record, maybe 10-15 minutes, something I can whack up on Bandcamp at the end and say, that's what I did for Creative Pact 2012. How about you, McLaughlin?
I think I'm back on the processing trail. It's been a couple of years. I haven't been using it much over the last couple of years, but I'm going to be using it a lot more this year. So I think Creative Pact month will be my month to get back into processing in a serious way. So I've got to dream up a couple of little projects for it. But yeah.
That's awesome stuff.
Excellent news.
Let's ride that pirate ship further down the metaphorical internet coast and head into the... there's a lamp almost fell over there. And head on to the next item of plunder. I've entitled it How to Use FX. Alan and Heath have a video tutorial discussing the use of FX in a live performance situation, given by Mark E.G. And obviously it's focused around their DB4 mixer, but a lot of the kind of discussion about the kind of techniques to use and things to use obviously are transferable between stuff. And it's also obviously it's a fun video, and they've actually made an archive of the loops used in the video available for download as well, which is kind of cool. And they have a cool blog. I didn't know that Alan and Heath kind of did a blog like that, but it's actually a pretty cool blog. So I think I put the link into it. Yeah, the link for the blog would be in there as well. So that might be it's worth checking out. It's kind of fun.
Even if it weren't, Scott, you could update the page at theaudiopodcast.co.uk.
Yeah. There's a less cool typo in that one, so I'll definitely go fix that one. Cool.
Okay.
Next piece of plunder. I presumed everybody knew this, but maybe they don't. So Lifehacker had an article about using aggregate devices in OS X. Now, they've been there since... I know they've been there in 10.6. Were they not there in 10.4 as well?
No, I don't think so. Or maybe, but it wasn't as obvious or something. I can remember having to set something like that up for Ardor, but that might have been on 10.6. So
okay.
It came to my notice during that time frame, during maybe 10.5, not sure. But yeah, aggregate devices, very interesting thing that's actually built into the operating system of Mac OS X and is available in at least 10.6 and upwards. And this article, I suppose, is about how you set up an aggregate device, which is basically where you can take inputs and outputs of any connected and, I suppose, compatible audio interface and create a kind of virtual audio interface from this combination of inputs and outputs.
Yeah. It's really cool. Like, I use it all the time for all sorts of stuff. But
I haven't really. I mean, because I just tend to use it. I just have everything on my one unit and just keep to that unit. That's the logical part of me. So I'm quite happy. But it's good to know it's there if you need it.
yeah, definitely so. That's
Okay,
awesome.
the next one is actually the next two that I put in. Okay, the first is Sufi plugins. I actually found this article on adhoc.fm, which is a music blogging site. If you're at all interested in listening to new music coming out, but that when I say new music, I mean kind of pop-based stuff, but stuff that's more alternative, more lo-fi or DIY, head to adhoc.fm and you can follow their RSS feed as I do and go through their tunes. One of their articles was about the Sufi plugins, which is a plugin set for Ableton. It looks like it's a Max for Live type deal. So they're made in Max, but they run in Ableton. And they're designed to basically eschew the whole idea of like 4/4 and standard pitching and I can't remember what it's called when things are atonal stuff, and kind of move your music creation towards other types of time signature, other types of harmony and melody. So it's their intention to make these as VST plugins in the future, but at the moment you can download the free Ableton Live versions of these. So head to the link in the audiopodcast.co.uk website that links to that. And the last thing on our agenda here, Scott, is Studio One free. Now, free stuff is pretty cool. Basically, I was kind of having a look at Studio One last week or the week before, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. And there are two different ways you can go. You can, if you want to try this out, you can either get the demo of Studio One version 2 Pro and use it completely unlocked with all its functionality for 30 days, or you can download Studio One free and use it as long as you like. You don't need a license code or anything like that, but it's not a full version of the software. It's a kind of limited version. We've got a link to the comparison page that says, okay, this is what the different versions of Studio One have got. So if you're interested to see how it stacks up to the Pro version, head to the Audio Podcast show notes for today. But yeah, I thought it's the basic functionality's there. So if you want to try out Studio One and not feel like you have to really go for it in 30 days because the demo will run out, try Studio One free. You can use it as long as you like, and you can save and load and all that kind of thing. Nothing like that is missing. It's just got some of the more advanced things in Pro are not available in free. So there you go.
Now, when you say free, I just want to clarify, this is free as in beer, but not as in speech. So, unlike MuscScore, which is a completely open source free project, this is a proprietary code base, but it's available free of charge.
Studio One free, Studio One free is made by PreSonus, so it is a proprietary product, but it is available for £0 or $0 if you're in America. So yes. Thank you for bringing up that subtlety.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that. And with that, we make it to the end.
It's been quite a long show, but we've had some very interesting. We've had a fascinating interview about MuscScore, and the standard stuff that we have in the audio podcast every week.
Yeah, that is very, very true.
And Scott McLaughlin.
And Scott McLaughlin, yeah.
And Scott McLaughlin, which is, we haven't had Scott McLaughlin in for a while, but it's good to see him.
Now I have a microphone.
Oh.
So I'd like to say thank you to Thomas and Nicholas, who were on at the start of the show, for talking to us about MuscScore. That was awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. You can get all the show notes at theaudiopodcast.co.uk/show 68 or show/68. I made a bit of a hash of that, didn't I? That was nice. I'll remind you that we will be back on the 10th of September. He says, just checking the notes. Yes, 10th of September. We'll be back again at 7 p.m. London time, which is cool. Just come check us out in the Hangout, or obviously we appear on iTunes and everything else a little bit later on by Tuesday, which is a lot of fun. I am Scott Hewitt. I intend to remain being myself. It's been my greatest pleasure.
You stole my bit. You stole my bit.
This is so much fun. I'm deliberately sabotaging Adam. This is so much fun.
It's all right. I'm creative enough to get around it.
That's very good. I'm gonna. If you guys want to say bye as well.
You go first, Scott.
I've been Scott McLaughlin.
And after changing my name by a D-poll, I have been Supercore. I don't know what I said there.
Goodbye, Internet. See you in September. Bye. See ya.